Everybody. My name is Turcer, and I'm with Common Cause, Ohio. It's good to see you all out here on this rainy day. I believe everything that Deidra really highlighted. When I think about voting, we're talking about the cornerstone of democracy. The polls, whether literally when you go to the ballot, you go on election day, or figuratively when you cast that ballot, at the kitchen table, and then you put it in the mail. It's the one place at the polls where we are all equal, where we all have a voice. But of course, that vote can actually be manipulated. And the rules that are established by the General Assembly that govern elections greatly impact our votes. And so as we think about, why is this conversation so important? It's because we can actually we're talking about how the rules impact our votes. Now, we can have incredibly long lines like we did in 2004, or we can have early in-person voting, no-fault absentee vote by mail, and voting on election day. We can restrict weekend voting, or we can invite all eligible Ohioans to take advantage of the convenience of multiple ways to cast a ballot. Our legislative process can open up voting for things like online voter registration. There are two different bills. There's House Bill 78, which is sponsored by Representative Cinziano, and Senate Bill 175, which is sponsored by Senator LaRose. Now, we can do these things to improve our election system, or we can make things more difficult. Now, Deidra spoke in some detail about Senate Bill 205, sponsored by Senator Coley, which really impacts the mail-in ballots. And when you think about, when she talked a little bit about kind of the details of that, I think it's important to think about just silly little obstacles like, well, what if you put your birth date where the date goes? What if you put your last name where the first name is? What does complete mean? And should voters actually be tripped up by silly things when really the application form for a mail-in ballot or that actual ballot going in, the reason you have that information is so they can figure out that you are a qualified voter. Yes, it's true, the devil's in the details. The details are important, but how it's all put together on that form is not. What's important is what they call material, not completeness. And it could easily trip up lots of us. Just think of all the silly things you do where you print your name, where you should actually sign your name. I'm also, of course, worried about the reduction in early voting. It's hard to imagine that you could introduce something one week, it would get passed out of the Senate the next week, and then the following week it's off to the House. When you move this rapidly, it's really hard to actually work things through in a deliberative fashion. Now, we know that the Ohio General Assembly is making some pretty serious choices about voting. We know that, almost always they've done this like kitchen sink thing. Like if you think about the budget, it's like everything but the kitchen sink. In this case, it's a little here, a little nibble here, a little nibble there. And at the end of the day, it could make things more difficult, not easier for voters. I really urge, the General Assembly to focus on laws that solve our real problems, not on creating obstacles for voters. And at the end of the day, if the General Assembly doesn't slow down the train, then it is the responsibility of our governor to do so. And on that note, I would like to hand it over to the wonderful Judge Jones.